some fundamental concepts of Power Apps Portal ALM and the CI/CD deployment. So as I told you, I've been working in the Power Apps portal since the AD Studio version was there. So, I have seen the growth of the portal. I have seen like how the portal, what are the overcomes of the portals, what are the features that we were lagging, in the AD Studio version, now how the portal started getting improved. So the deployment was one of the, the major problem, with the portals from the time of ADX Studio. So when the ADX Studio was there, there was a tool called website migration tool we were using, and we had a lot of challenges in that. And then the Microsoft adopted the Power Apps portal. Then we started using the configuration migration tools, since it was not officially announced by the Microsoft that you can go with the configuration migration tool, but we were still using that because we did not had any options available at that time. Few community members has created some of the tools like XRM toolbox they have created for more like portal code mover, something like that. And so that was also using to deploy the portals components. But now Microsoft has done phenomenal job in terms of the deployment especially, and they just introduced the Power App CLI concepts. So now I think we call it as a Power Platform CLI. So by using the Power Platform CLI, I think now it's very easy to design your own extension. It's very easy to design your own component to automate your portal deployment. OK, so today in this session, I'm going to discuss about the basic concept of the ALM process. And I just created my own extension, just a few months back. And I'm glad to see that for around 500, 550 plus users are already using it. So I'm really glad to know about that. So that tool I've actually, created just to automate the Power Apps portal deployment. So it's a Azure DevOps based extension that you can simply use it in your Azure DevOps organization. So obviously it's a free tool and you can start automating your, portal deployment. So before come to that part, I'll first, uh, give a small introduction about the Power Apps portal ALM process. Okay, so those who just joined the session, and let me introduce myself quickly. My name is Arpish Srivastav, and I am a Microsoft MVP. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer as well. And I'm currently working as a Power Platform architect in Capgemini. I'm based out of India, but recently I'm in Sweden, and I'm leading the India Dynamics 365 group, and I'm the ambassador of our community. I've been writing blogs since 2014. I've been speaking and organizing a lot of boot camps training since 2019. If you just wanted to get in touch with me on my social media channel, you can just check out my website arpitpowerguy.com. I usually share a lot of interesting stuff there. So all the interesting, the code components or the code snippets or the useful tips I have shared uh, in this boot camp, I'll definitely going to share on my website. So you can follow me or subscribe me on my YouTube channel as well, where I can put all the recordings as well. All right. OK, so if I talk about the agenda, I'm just going to discuss about the Power Apps portal ALM. OK. And then I will discuss about the Power Platform CLI. I think you need to stay tuned for the next session. The Alexander is going to discuss more about the Power Platform CLI. He has created the Visual Studio extension, and I'm also using that extension. It's quite helpful. So you don't need to remember, the Power Apps CLI command in order to export the portal configuration, import the portal configuration. You can just start using his extension in your VS Code and can export and import the configuration. All right. So just stay tuned for a session as well. Portals deployment using CLI and the portal build tools, that the extension that I have created. So I'm going to discuss about that as well. And obviously we have a demo where I'm going to show you, and I can show you that how you can configure that extension. So it's just a 10 to 15 minutes job. You just need to download that extension and can start using that. How simple it is. OK. So let's talk about the Power Apps portal ALM. So not only about the the Power Apps portal, any application in this world basically has a application lifecycle management, same like the human being. right? So any application, it's born from its conception to the end of its life. Any application basically has a application lifecycle management. So they start with the planning, right? So there is a planning phase where you have to plan, how you're designing your application, right? Then you have to, once the planning is done, then you have to design that application, you have to develop that application, then you have to do the testing so that you can just push it to your target environment. Once you deploy it, then then the operational phase or the maintenance comes to the picture. So this is the way how the application lifecycle works. So basically application lifecycle is just a the way how you can follow the whole cycle from planning to operation in a disciplined manner, right? So ALM basically is it actually comprises of the people, process, and the products. How effectively you can automating your process, how effectively you are utilizing your resources, how effectively you are using the tools to manage your life cycle. That is all about the application life cycle management. Okay. So if I talk about from the portal perspective, what is there from the portal perspective in the planning phase? So you know it actually depends. Like from my perspective, I put more effort in the planning rather on the development, because if I put not effort, if I'm not putting more effort in the planning phase, definitely I end up messing the other phases of the life cycle management, the development, the testing and all. So it's always recommended that you spend a lot of times on the planning to design your application strategy. So obviously in terms, if I talk about the portals, in the portals planning, we have to, there are a lot of things you have to consider. The first of all, the requirement management. You first of all need to understand in the requirement management phase that whether it is really required to design the portal for a particular requirement or not. Because sometimes, we end up, facing issues like we don't really require the portal for a particular requirement, but still we adopt the portals, right? So there are a lot of components available of the Power Platform. So we have to very carefully choose whether we really require this portal for a particular development or not, right? So that is very important. So based on the requirement, you have to analyze whether the portal is really required or not. Environment planning, that is also very important. So if you have just a thought of like you have to design the portals, then you have to think about the environments as well. So environment is nothing, it's just a grouping of all the resources. So resources could be your portals, your power apps, your flows, your connectors. So it actually a grouping of the resources. So there could be multiple environments you can plan. So there is no particular thumb rule, it actually depends on organization to organization. Usually we create the three environments: dev, test, or the production. In the development, we use the development. Testing, we you do the UATs and all, and the production, which is basically the live environment. So you have to properly plan your environments, where you want to do the development, where you want to do the testing, and how you can deploy your changes from one environment to another environment. Know your portal audience. So that is a very important things from the portal perspective. You should understand like who is going to use that portal, right? It could be your vendors, it could be your partners, it could be your Dynamic 365 users or anyone. So you need to understand the portal audience, and based on that, your portal licensing will be depend, right? So portal licensing is also very a key part of the portal planning, because based on that you have to start thinking upon it so that you don't pay extra to the Microsoft, right? So it is very important that you are planning the licensing of the portal very precisely. Security and the user access, who is going to use the portals, how many users is going to anonymously access your portal, what sort of data you want to expose to the portal. So security and user access is it's just a key point in the planning phase. You have to decide precisely whether you want to go with the starter portal, customer portal, or the partner portal. Because once you decide the portal and you implemented that, you cannot roll it back to the another portal. There is no way that you can change the portal from one portal to another portal. So you need to decide carefully that which portal you want to use for your to meet your business requirement. Solution strategy. It depends whether you want to keep a different solution to keep your Dynamic 365 related customization together with your Power Platform, sorry, your portal components. Because sometimes it actually depends on organization to organization. You keep a separate solution to keep your portal related components, because when you customize the portal, you have to create the forms, views, the tables, columns, and all in the Dataverse, right? And you don't want to mix up with the Dynamic 365 customization. Just to distinguish these customization from your Dynamic 365 team customization, you can create a separate solution so that it will help you to deploy it, because sometimes your portal deployment cycle is different from the Dynamics 365 deployment cycle. So it's always better to keep a separate solution to track or monitor your portal related customization. All right. Development team planning is also important, that because portal required a lot of the skills and the capabilities. For example, you might require a UI developer, or you might require someone who is good in the JavaScript or the UI designing. So it is also part of your planning phase, that how many resources will be working in your development team, who will be the part of the testing team, who will be the part of the deployment process, and who will be taking care of the UI and the CSS parts and all. Source code management and the deployment planning, that is very important, that how you gonna store your source code, whether you want to keep it in the local repository or you want to keep it in the cloud, how you want to automate that, what sort of repository you are going to use, what should be the branching strategy of that. So definitely these all the points you need to consider while planning the Power Apps portal. Okay. Now, the second phase, once your planning is done, you do the development. So portal development comprise of two things. The first is customization and the second is configuration. Okay. So there are two types of development. So configuration means whatever you are doing in the out of box components available for the portals. For example, your basic forms, advanced form, tables, web forms, sorry, the web pages, table permissions, web rows, so all sort of configuration you are doing in the portal default entities are part of the configuration. But if you want to create, if you want to create some basic forms or advanced form, definitely you have to create some sort of, customization in the Dataverse as well. You might need to create a new table. You might need to create a new attributes, columns, forms, views, and all, right? So basically portal development completes the two things, customization and the configuration. Configuration and so I'll come to that part in the later slide deck, that how you can do the customization and how you can do the configuration. Okay, so this is I'm talking about the development techniques. So there are a couple of ways that Microsoft has provided to customize your portal. Okay, so you can use the Power Pages Design Studios. So earlier it was the Power Apps Portal Studio. So you have the Power Pages Design Studios as well, so that you can use it to customize your portal. You can create the pages, you can configure your permissions, web templates, writing the code components, everything, right? If you want to use the Power Pages Design Studio, it's a very great way to customize the portal. The second way is the model driven app. Once you install the portal, you get the model driven app available in your instance called the portal management. Okay. And if you are familiar with the old way of doing customization in the Power Apps portal, if you are familiar with, or if you are interested to customize the portal from the Dynamic 365 or model driven app, then you can use the portal management app as well. The third, that the recent way is the Power Apps CLI. This is one of the more advanced way. So if you are the Visual Studio lover and you just want to, directly add it or change the HTML and everything on the local machine on the Visual Studio code, then definitely you can take the export of your complete portal configuration, make the changes and upload it back to your Dataverse environment, right? So this is about the Power Apps CLI. So this the advantage of using Power Apps CLI, except the Power Pages Design Studio and the portal management app, is it works offline as well. Okay, it doesn't require to be connected with the internet, because Power Pages Design Studio and portal management app both work when you have the internet access available. But Power Apps CLI, you can work without internet. You can take the export. Definitely for that purpose, you need the internet. But once you have that export available on your local machine, you can make the changes. And once your internet is back, then you can upload the changes back to your Dataverse environment. So that is one of the most important advantage of using that. Another advantage that I personally feel is the taking backup. So once you take the export of a local machine, you don't need to worry about that your code will get lost, because sometimes it happens with me personally when I was working in the portals. Sometimes my file got deleted or sometimes my code got corrupted. So that will not happen in case of Power Apps CLI, because you already have the the code exported on your local machine. So that is the different development techniques to customize the portal. Power Platform BS a code extension. So if you are going to use the Power App CLI, Power Platform CLI, then definitely you can use the Power Platform VS Code extension. It's a Microsoft provided VS Code extension. So you don't need to remember what sort of commands we have. It always comes in the IntelliSense. So all the liquid template syntax and everything, you get it in the VS Code. So if you're planning to customize the portal or designing the HTML page, scripting or liquid template, I would recommend to start using the Power Platform VS Code extension on your local machine, and then customize the portal. Then the deployment part. Once your development is done, you have to deploy your configuration to the target environment, and here the different tools or extension comes to the picture. Okay, so if I talk about the different deployment techniques, as I already talked about that, it was started from the website copy tool when the ADX Studio portal was there. Okay, then we had the portal code mover. It was the XRM toolbox we had available. Then we used to deploy our portal configuration using configuration migration tools as well. So these are all the tools which all the tools has their own limitations, right? But the Power App CLI, which is the most recent one that actually automate your deployment. Not only it actually is your development way of working, but it also automate your deployment as well, right? So this is the history of the deployment techniques, the different ways we had. And then we going to discuss about the deployment types. So similar like the development types, if we have the two types of development in the portal, the first is customization and second is the configuration, then definitely we are going to have the two types of deployment as well. Deploy the customization and deploy the configuration. Okay. To deploy the customization, we use the normal process, the solution deployment process. Okay. So if we have done any sort of customization in the Microsoft Dataverse while designing the portals, for example, creating tables, columns, forms, then we have to use the normal process to deploy that customization using solution deployment. And definitely we have the Azure Power Platform build tools available as a Azure DevOps extension. So you don't need to take it manually, export and import the solution. You can start using that. If you are not aware about that, you can just find it with the Power Platform build tools name, and you can automate your customization deployment as well. Okay. Now, second part is your configuration deployment. So configuration is what? Configuration is, whatever you made the changes in the portal configuration or the portal components, for example, basic forms and advanced form. Okay, so to deploy that, you either can use the Power App Platform CLI. Okay, to Power Platform CLI, you need to manually enter your all sort of commands to deploy that. And definitely if you don't want to manually type all the commands and all, if you want that all the command should be come in the IntelliSense, then definitely you can use the tool that Alexander has created. So it's a BS code extension. You can use that. I think it's a portal helper code. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alexander. So it's a tool that you can install it in your VS code and can start using it to avoid writing the Power Platform CLI commands. Okay, but if you still don't want to use this Power App CLI manually typing and all, then definitely you can use my tool where you can just simply install that in your Azure DevOps extension and can start using that. Okay. Power Platform CLI, or is a Power Plus CLI. What is the meaning of Power Platform CLI? Power Platform CLI is basically it's a symbol, or it's a single stop developer command line interface that not only actually empowers your developers, but your independent service vendors as well to interact with your Microsoft Power Platform components. Okay, so earlier we had the capabilities that only the developers can only interact with the Power Platform, but using Power App CLI, any independent service vendor who is not part of the Power Platform or the Dynamics 365, they can design their own tool or extension to interact with the Power Platform CLI. Okay, so this is the capability of the Power Platform CLI. Portal deployment using Power App CLI. So this is the tool that I have designed. Recently, I made a lot of changes. So there are a lot of release, has been done during the last couple of months based on the feedback I got it from the users. Okay, so the Power Pages build tools basically is it's a tool that empowers developers to enable CI/CD of the portal configuration. You can use this tool to check in the portal configuration to your source control, whether it's a GitHub, Git, or Azure repository, and move your portal configuration to any environment using Power Platform CLI. Okay, so in this Power Pages build tool, I have created 3 build tasks. The first is portal tool installer. The portal tool installer is nothing but, it just install all the prerequisites, the packages, the Node.js and npm and everything that is required to perform the Power Platform CLI commands, right? So if you perform these Power Platform CLI command manually on your VS Code or on your local machine, you have to download this manually. Okay. So I just made it simple for you. You don't need to download any sort of npm, Node.js, TypeScript, and all. You can just simply add this task in your Azure DevOps CI/CD pipeline, and it will automatically install everything for you. Export portal configuration. Once your prerequisite tools are done, the what you have to do is you have to take the export of your portal configuration. So that will take the portal export configuration of all the data. Export portal configuration. Recently, Microsoft introduced two new feature in the export portal configuration, that is exclude and include. That means while taking the export from the portal, you can mention what entities you want to include as part of the deployment, or you can also exclude the entity as part of the deployment. Now, why it is necessary? Because sometimes you don't want to deploy the whole configuration every time from source to target instance, especially the site settings or some of the other components. For example, like in the morning, we have demonstrated you the Azure AD B2C site settings, right? So obviously the Azure AD B2C site setting will be differ based on the environment. The dev environment and the test environment and the prod environment site settings will be different. There is not possibility that you can use the same settings across the different environments. So definitely you can't deploy the same site setting to the multiple environments. Otherwise it will, override your Azure AD B2C configuration changes, right? So in that case, you always want to exclude some of the entities while taking the export from the portal. Okay. So that is very important, a request from all the developers side, and Microsoft, I think, recently included this as part of the Power Platform latest CLI version, where you can provide the list of include and exclude entities. Okay. Import portal configuration, and that is important thing. Like once you take the export from the portal, you can import that configuration to your target environment. And while importing the configuration, again you have the two things. There is a deployment profile concept. Deployment profile concept is basically in use when you have to, deploy something that you want to keep it different from your source instance. Okay. So for example, like you have, the two environment, dev and the production. Okay. And in the dev environment, you want to show the title on the home page, like, Power Guide Dev. But on the production, you want to change the title to Power Guide Prod. Okay. Another example, on the dev environment and on the UAT environment, for the testing purpose, you want to enable the local authentication. But on the production environment, you don't want to enable the local authentication, right? So there is something you want to keep different between two environments while taking the export and import. So in that case, deployment profile comes into the picture, right? The configuration that you want to change, especially for that target environment, you can keep it in the deployment profile and you can take the export. All right. So I'll show you that in my demo. So in the demo scenario, what I'm going to do is I have three environments available: Dev, SIT, and UAT. Somehow the SIT is not available right now because it got expired. So I have right now two environments available: Dev and UAT. What I'm going to do is I already have the portal installed on my Dev instance and the UAT instance. Okay. So I'm going to take the export from my Dev environment and going to import it to my UAT environment. And all this I'm going to do using my Power Platform build tools. Sorry, it's a Power Pages build tools. Okay, so let's get started and let's see that how the tools look like, how you can get that tool. So first of all, here we go. All right. So if you want to see the tool that I have made available for you, so it's a you just simply go to the Google and just put Power Pages. Okay, so if you can see here, so this is the tool that I have designed. Okay, Power Pages portal build tools, and you can simply click on the get it free, or if you already have the Azure DevOps instance, what you can do is you can just you simply go to the browse marketplace or manage extension. So you need to browse it. So once you browse it, you will see the marketplace Visual Studio. You just need to click the Azure DevOps. It's not really selected and just search Power Pages tools. OK, so once you search it, this is the tool that I'm talking about. You can either directly search it on the Google or you can go it inside the Azure DevOps as well. OK, so once you do that, since I've already installed this tool, so it's already there. So if I go to the manage extension, if you can see here, this Power Pages build tools is already available, right? So if you want to, just track like if I have recently made some sort of, update to my tools, if you already install or if you are already using my tools, and if you want to see like is there any update made in this particular tool in past couple of months or past couple of days, so that simply you can come here, manage extension and can see what is the latest version and when it's updated. So on 27th August, so I think last week, I just made these changes in this tool. OK. All right. What sort of features this tool provides? So I just created a project. So I'm not going to show you the basic setup of the Azure DevOps. I'm just assuming that you have the understanding of the basic setup of the Azure DevOps. So I've just created a project called Power Guide, and here I have the repository available. And in the repository, I just created a two folder, D365 solution, where I'm going to dump all my Dynamic 365 files. Obviously, I'm not going to demonstrate that solution export and import. Portal solution that I'm going to demonstrate it to you. Here I have created a preview folder, and in this preview folder, I've already taken the export, so I'm just gonna delete it for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the export from my dev instance. So let me show you. This is my dev instance. OK, so this is yep. Let me go to the makerpowerapps.com. All right. So let me go to my environments and go to apps. And yeah, so this is my dev environment, arpitpowerguide.com. So this is my dev environment, and let me close the other windows. And here I'm opening another environment called Power Community environment, and this is I'm going to use as a UAT environment. So if you can see here, I have two portals, Power Guide Dev. OK, this is the Power Guide Dev. And in the another environment, I have a portal called Power Guide UAT. OK, I'm opening that as well. So in two environments, I have two different portals available. Now let me head over to the pipeline. OK, so this is the repository, the basic structure. Let's come to the pipeline now. So once you install that particular tool, you are good to go to start using the pipeline build task. OK, So what you can do is if you just want to create a new pipeline, just click here, click on new pipeline, click on the use classic editor because I don't want to use any of the existing one. And then Azure DevOps one, this one you have to select. You need to select the repository, your branch, continue, and I just wanted to start with the empty job. OK. Now, if you can see here, once you create this, the pipeline, you land up on this page where you don't have any build task available right now. OK, so since you already installed my tool, you can just click here and just search portals. OK, and here you can see three tasks available: export portal configuration, import portal configuration, and the tool installer. OK. So portal tool installer, that is the first build task you have to use it before using any export or the import, right? Because that is necessary to take the export. Power Apps CLI is necessary to install it on the virtual machine, right? So you have to install it. Now the recent features what I provided is I just use the option called use latest version. So by default, as Microsoft also recommend, like whenever you install, any Power Apps CLI version, you always use the latest version. So I think the latest version is 1.17.6, if I'm not wrong. But sometimes what happen is, that recently one of the request came from the community side because I haven't provided this options earlier, the latest version option, because by default I was installing the latest Power App CLI version. But what happened last time, Microsoft releases the 1.17.4 version of Power App CLI, and somehow it had a bug that it was it had some bug related to the portal deployment. So my portal deployment started getting failed because I was using the latest version of the Microsoft, right? So sometimes Microsoft release some of the portal CLI version, it might have some of the bug, and you don't want to start using that latest version, but you want to use some of the specific version so that you should not end up facing any sort of deployment issue. So you can just simply uncheck this option and you can simply provide the Power App CLI specific version as well. So let's say if the latest version is 1.17.6 and it has some bug, so you can simply not using the latest version and you can specify the version as well. All right. But I'm going to use the latest one unless any issue is there, but I'm going to use the latest version because it's always recommended. Anytime you can go to the information so that you can get the information that what is the significance of the individual settings that I have provided. So portal tool installer, you don't need to care much about it, right? Unless the version is changed. So portal tool installer, then the next task that you have to include is the export, right? Because once your tool is installed, you need to export the portal configuration. All right, so once you taken the export, uh, if you click on the export portal configuration, you have to provide some sort of information, because if you have to export, you need to connect with your source instance. You need to provide the website details that you want to export, right? So if you can see here, these are the configuration you have to provide. You need to provide the Dynamic 365 URL where your portal resides. You need to provide the website ID that you want to export, application ID, client secret, and the tenant ID. So this is basically, the OAuth based authentication. You can also use the local authentication as well, but it doesn't support the multi-factor authentication. So it's always recommended to use the service principal here, the OAuth authentication. So I'm not going to show you like how the app registration will work. You need to just register an application in the Active Directory and just need to associate the Dynamics 365 API permission over there. OK, so once you registered your app, and after registration and app in the Active Directory, just make sure you are creating that application user in your Dynamics 365 environment as well. OK, and provide some necessary privilege. So this is the process that you have to manage if you have to use the application user. OK, to communicate with the Microsoft environment. So I've already created the application user and already registered an app. OK, and so I'm just going to provide that information. So Dynamic 365 URL. So obviously I'm going to take the export from the source. So this is my source environment. So I'm just taking a copy of it, and yeah, so I can provide this like this way. Website ID, I can open this website. take it from the URL. So this is how my website ID looks like. Okay, application ID, client secret, tenant ID, this we can copy it from the Active Directory. I'm not going to demonstrate that because I've already created a pipeline for you where I've already captured these details. So you can just change this application, client secret and tenant ID based on your Azure app registration. Okay. The important thing that I've recently included, and thanks to the Alexander as well for letting us know about that latest feature. So he has already included that feature in their portal helper code, and I've also included this feature in my this Azure DevOps extension as well, that you can specify whether you can take the export of all the portal configuration. You want to include the portal, what sort of entity you want to include as part of portal export, or if you want to exclude any of the entity as part of portal export. OK, if you choose all, OK, you don't need to provide any sort of list of information. But if you choose include, you get the option include entities, the logical name of entity, the attribute, the entities in the comma separated format. OK. So for example, in your export, you only want to include the web page. So what you will do is you will include the web page. You also want to include the content snippet as well. So you will enter like this content snippet like this way, right? So sometimes what happen is you want to export only few entities to deploy. So for example, like you got a bug in your portal in your production environment, and you just make a changes in the web page script, right? So in the earlier version of the deployment, you had to take the export of all the portal configuration and import it to your target environment. But using this include and exclude option, you can only take the export of that portal combination components that you had made the changes in the source instance. OK, so there is no risk of deploying it. So this is about the include, but if you just want to, if you have the list of a lot of entities in the include, you may use the exclude part as well, because you want to include all the entities except the site settings. So how you can do that? You can take the option exclude, and here you can specify the entity that you want to export from being exported from the portal configuration, right? So you can specify like this. And this is the logical name of your entity, right? Just make sure it's not a schema name. It's a logical name. Logical name is the lowercase name of the schema. OK, so you have to provide the comma separated format in the excluded like this. All right, that's it. Once you do that, then you have to provide the target folder where you want to, save your export, your portal data. So I can just take I just want to, store my whole portal configuration under the preview. OK, so I can choose OK, and that's it. OK, so these are the two build tasks you have to use it to install it and to export the portal configuration. OK. So let me go back to my pipeline where I have already configured all the things. So I don't need to, do it again. Let me edit this. So if you can see here, I've already installed the portal tool installer. OK, I'm using the latest version. Export portal configuration. I've just used the dynamic 365 URL instead of hard coding the website ID, application ID, client secrets, and tenant ID. It's always use the variables, pipeline variables. So since I've already configured here application ID, secrets, and all, I've just exposed it. But the best way to keep this information in the confidential way by just turn this lock icon. OK, if you just turn this lock icon, then the no user can access this application ID, client secrets, and all. All right. All right, so this is the configuration you have to do it, and how you can access your variable that you have created in the pipeline, that we call it as a pipeline variable. So how you can read those pipeline variable in your pipeline in your build task by using the $sign. OK, once and then I'm just going to exclude these entities, content snippet, site settings. So I'm not going to, I'm just removing this. That means I'm taking the export of all the entities, excluding the site settings and the site markers. OK, and I'm going to store that configuration at my preview folder. All right, that's it. The one step, the PowerShell script that you have to write. So whatever export you are taking at this folder, that will be available locally. So if you have to push it to the remote repository, you have to write this command. So here what I've used is, you can just remove it for now. So this is the 5 to 6 line of script you have to write. Here you can mention like build requester for email. So and the build requester for. So this basically, takes the user email who is actually running this pipeline. OK, so right now I am running the pipeline. So it's taking my user email and I am running my pipeline. So it's taking my username. So this configuration you have to provide in order to push this, code to your remote repository. Checkout, and then you have to provide this path as well, and that's it. So this is the code. You just need to copy paste it. The only thing you need to change it is this part. OK, sometimes what happen is your this information, the email address and the username, sometimes for in most of the cases you want to keep a single user for all sort of deployment, so you can simply hard code this information. But in your case, if you want to track like who is going to deploy it, if you want to dynamically take that user email and username, you can use this syntax like $build.request for email. OK, now finally, when we take on the export, we have to publish that artifacts because that is necessary in order to, import it to the target environment. We have to publish that artifacts as well. So for publishing an artifact, we have to, take the artifacts from the location where we have published our portal configuration. So here we have published our export at the preview. In the same location, we have to take that export. And this is the artifact name that I'm going to use to push, the portal code to my artifact location. All right, that's it. So this is about, the export, the CI pipeline. If I talk about the release pipeline, just going to leave it. If I go to the release pipeline, go to edit. So release pipeline, again, I have to use the tool installer because I'm going to import it to the portal configuration. And if I click on the portal configuration, again, I have to connect to my target environment, Dynamics URL, application ID, secret key, tenant ID, and all. And here I have to select that data, the zip file that actually published using the artifacts, right? So I can simply go here and I can choose that artifacts that is already linked it. So every time when the export is done, the latest artifacts will be available here. So you just need to select that path so that once the artifacts will be available, that CD pipeline will automatically take that file and deploy it to the target environment. One important settings in that portal configuration is the deployment profile. Deployment profile basically it's not a mandatory. If you want to keep the same configuration in your dev and your target environment, you can uncheck this option. But if you want to keep the different configuration across the environment, then you can select the use deployment profile option and you have to provide the deployment profile name. OK, now to understand the concept of the profile name, you can come here, this article. And in this article, you can understand like, so for example, this is my two portals, dev and the QA. And in the dev portal, in the header, I want to show the dev with the, the green color as a background. And in the QA portal, I want to show the QA, after the header logo, and just set the background as yellow. OK. That means I want to, set the different configuration to the different two environments. So to do that, I need to create the deployment profile. So if you can see here, I need to create a folder inside my portal configuration with the name deployment profile. And inside that, I have to create the deployment profile. So for example, I want to keep the different settings for my dev environment. So I will create a deployment profile called dev.deployment.yaml, or for QA, I can create you have to use the similar, the name. So whatever name you are giving here, you have to use it in the import configuration section. So this is the name of your deployment profile and the name of your folder should be like this. And the file name should look like this. And in this file name, this is your deployment profile name for dev this, for QA this. So now you can go down. In this article, they have created two deployment profile under the deployment folder. For dev, they have created this. That means the content snippet, they want to change it for different environment. So for example, for dev content snippet, you want to set the background color to green and set the label to dev. But while in the QA, you don't want to show the dev and the green, you want to change it to orange and the QA. Right? That means you want to keep the different configuration for this ADX, content snippet. So for these kind of requirement, you can use the deployment profile. If you have such requirement, then you can use the deployment profile. So for example, this is the name of my deployment profile. Let's say this one. So I need to copy this. I need to mention here. Make sure you are just providing the similar name that you have used in the deployment profile. That's it. OK, if you don't want to use the deployment profile, remove it and uncheck this option. Yeah, so that's it about the configuration. So let's run this pipeline, the portal CI pipeline. Run this pipeline, run it. Go here. By the way, in the upcoming release, so the commit code, the build task that I have shown in my build pipeline, I'm going to include that as part of the build task as well. So you don't need to put the PowerShell script as well in order to commit the code. You can directly use it, only the portal build tool installer and the export tool installer. You don't need to add the PowerShell script to commit the code. So in the upcoming release, I'm going to include that as part of the release. Also, in the future release of this tool, I'm going to include the environment variable as well, so that you don't need to use the web, the application IDs and everything. You can directly, keep this configuration in your environment variable in your source or target environment, and you can directly, get that information in your pipeline, like the way the Power Platform build tools work. OK, so now you can see Portal tool installer has installed it. So if you can see here installing the latest version, because I have chosen the latest version and it installed the latest version. It started taking export of the portal configuration. So I just provided all the important messages as well. OK, you can see here portal data export. If you can see here in the message, portal data export started except these site settings. OK, so I don't want to include this site setting as part of my deployment. So it exported, committed the code as well in the remote repository, and then publishing the artifacts. OK, publishing artifacts is necessary so that my release pipeline can take that zip file from there and can deploy it. OK, so my pipeline export is done. Let's go back to your repository and can see in the preview folder. If you can see here, my portal who is with the name Arpit Power Guide has got exported here. And if I expand it, you don't see the site settings over here. OK, because I have included, I haven't included the site settings. So this is how you can take the export of your portals. Now, if I go to the release pipeline, now if I have to create the deployment profile, let me show you that how you can do that. First, let me show you the artifacts as well. So this is my job that recently ran. And if you can see here, the new artifact got created. If I click here, I created the artifact with the name portal data. If I export it, you can see here, my portal exported artifact is available here. Perfect. OK. We go back here. All right. Let me go to the release pipeline now. So in the release pipeline, there are two ways. Either you can trigger this release pipeline automatically as soon as the build artifact is available. So you can just click here. So right now it's disabled, but you can just enable it. So, every time when the new artifact is available, it will automatically trigger. OK. And in the build task, if you can see here, I'm not going to use the deployment profile for now and simply save it and create the release. So that's all actually for from my side, that how you can use this tool, how you can design the CI pipeline and the CD pipeline, and you automate your portal deployment. So if you have any questions, meanwhile this pipeline is running. If you have any question, just do let me know.
Hi Arpit, there've been a few questions actually
Yeah.
posted in the chat. I don't know if you are able to look at the chat at the moment.
Yeah, let me go through it.
Yeah, there was a question about could we bring Office 365 services to Power Pages, like Stream or Viva Learning?
Can we bring O365 services to Power Pages like MS Stream or Viva Learning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what the reason for that might be. I mean, you can obviously embed Stream in a, you know, an internal sort of website potentially. You can embed it on a page, but I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not
definitely,
really
because
sure.
MS Stream and these required some sort of Azure AD authentication, if I'm not wrong,
Yes,
of
exactly. Yeah.
365. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
so it depends like what sort of authentication you are using on the portal. So maybe
yeah.
you can embed that in the iframe, but if you are not using the Azure AD authentication on the portal or the Power Pages, then I don't think you will be able to access that MS Stream, or the Viva Learning.
Yeah, and I wondered why, you know, if you were going to do that, why you wouldn't just use Stream, you know, anyway. I don't know. I
Because
don't know.
it happens with the Canvas app as well. Because
Good
if you have
question
to
though.
use the Canvas app on the portal, if you
Yeah,
want to embed the Canvas app on the portal, you need to log in with the Azure Active Directory.
yeah, yeah.
Else you cannot do
But
that. Yeah.
yeah, that is an interesting question though. So the next one was about a learning path for someone to start now relating to this topic. I mean, I've had a look. I've been actually whilst you've been presenting, I've been trying to find something that I think would be good for a beginner. Actually, I think your sessions Arpit, that you've done are probably a really good start. I'm not sure what's available on Microsoft Learn for this. I mean, I think there's quite a bit of information about general ALM
Yeah.
for the Power Platform, but not specific necessarily to portals. I don't know if you know of anything.
Yeah, exactly. So portals, Power Platform ALM, we have given. We have the COE kit also available, but not specific related to the portal ALM especially. But I think the few concepts will remain same, like the planning, how you can plan your portal development, how you can plan your deployment, environment strategy, because portal is altogether a part of your Power Platform, right? So
True.
few of the things will remain same as part of ALM process, but definitely the deployment and the development cycle will change in case of
Yeah.
portals. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point, Arpit. So just from the general, you know, the theory side, you know, you know, learning about ALM rather than specific to portals, that might be a good start. So what I'll do, John, is I'll dig out the link for that for you in a second, and I'll post that in. The next one was from Aldo. Does the CLI identify what portal data has changed since the last import, and then only apply the, you know, like an incremental sort of check the changes, or does it remove everything and then start again?
Not really. This is not supported right now, that you can track like what components have been changed. But definitely we can, think about it to include this in the future release. But I'm not sure like when it's going to be available in my tool. But right now there is no feature as such that you can track like how many components has been changed. Also, the deleted components. So for example, if you have deleted any of the component from the source, then the deployment will not aware about that. So right now in the Power Platform CLI, definitely we will Microsoft will cater these all the features in the upcoming releases. But definitely right now these are the features are not there. The updated changes, and the second one is the deleted components. But I guess in the Power Platform CLI, when you import the configuration, it automatically upload the changes that you have made to the file, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, and that's maybe where the question was coming from, I expect. Maybe, yeah.
What portal changed from the last import and only things are remove our portal data and recreate it again? Not fully, but I would say like in the Power Platform CLI right now, whatever file you have the changed, like for example, I think who had recently shown like Raghavan has shown that he made the changes only in the web pages. So when he when he started importing using Power Platform CLI, only web pages imported, not the whole components. So I think that feature is already there, and in the Power Platform build tools as well, in my tool extension as well. So whatever components you are changing, then only those components will be imported.
Cool. I see that Victor has actually kindly answered the next question that was about styling. So thank you very much, Victor, for answering that question. John had asked if we were creating a new portal that needs to have the same styling as an existing website that it would be part of. What do we need to get from the administrator for the existing website? So Victor suggested the CSS files and preferably Bootstrap compatible. So thanks for answering that one, Victor. Yes, people waiting for the environment variables in the build tools.
Yes.
The next one was, can you automatically run the build pipeline when changes are made to a website? So does it listen? I guess.
Is it possible to deploy single and particular elements, not only all the pages, but also an specific page, which I have changed in the development to prod? Right now, it's not possible that the individual record you want to deploy. You have to take the export of the complete table and you have to import it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if it will automatically run RPit when changes are made to a website? I don't think it can do that, can it?
Yeah, so right now there is no direct communication between your, the Dynamic 365 and the Power Platform. Sorry,
Yeah,
the Azure DevOps, because
yeah,
the changes that you are doing in the website is in the Microsoft Dataverse, and Azure
yeah,
DevOps is not aware about that.
yeah,
But I'm sure like we have the we have the connectors available in the Power Automate, right?
yeah.
So as soon as any changes occurs in the website or any of the portal tools, and you feel like that you want to trigger your
Oh yeah,
pipeline,
yeah.
then definitely you
Okay.
can write the Power Automate, and in the
Yeah,
Power Automate you can use the Azure DevOps connector, and there you can run the pipeline.
yeah, yeah. Great
Yeah.
thinking there. So does this extension take from staging dev to QA to prod?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
So it
just
goes all
shown
the
you
way
like
through the
yes,
life
yes.
cycle. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I just shown
Yeah.
you to deploy the dev to QA, and if you want to deploy to multiple environment, you just need to add the multiple import configuration steps in your CD pipeline. So if you have to import it to the 3 environment, then you just need to add the portal tool installer that will install all the prerequisites, and you need to add the import portal configuration build task 3 times, one for QA, one for prod, and one for another environments.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I just realized I just scrolled down and realized that you'd answered that. Sorry, Arpit. Sorry. There's a question there asking, is Power Pages the replacement for SharePoint pages and web parts? I'm not entirely sure that they're the same product, are they?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
I don't think Power Pages is something different from the SharePoint pages and web parts. So I would say no, it's
yeah,
not a replacement. It's a standalone components of Power Platform, and SharePoint pages and web part is something different. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They each have their
And
own
and
place,
and just
right?
one more thing, like Power Pages store the data in the Microsoft Dataverse, but
Yes, yeah.
the SharePoint pages and web part doesn't.
Okay, fine. Well, that's all the questions there. Let me just check the Q&A. Right, nothing more in the Q&A actually. And then just another quick question about the session recordings, which will be, in the fullness of time, will be made available through the website as per the pinned post at the top of the chat. So thanks everyone for your great questions, some really good questions there. And thank you to Arpit, because you've been an absolute star today, you know, with all of the sessions that you've done. And but I don't know how you maintain the energy that you maintain and present it all so well, just one after the other. It's been amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This energy comes from the community members, feedbacks, and all the appreciation they are giving to me. So thanks for all the community members, and thanks to all the organizing team of our Power community. You have been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Arpit. So